back. For this week's fly, we're going to do another Kelly Galloup pattern. This one, by the way, has the best name of any pattern he's ever done. Good job, Kelly. This one is called the Pearl Necklace, and as he explained it on his video, it's simple yet elegant. That's what we'll go with. Outside of the name, which is genius if you ask me, it's just a phenomenal fly. It's a great pattern, awesome to fish. It just produces, it really does. Designed more so for a jig style than a jerk strip. Very effective in early spring, but I run this pattern year round. I mean, it's just that good. It really is. I'm going to zoom out just a shade there so we got the whole tail in. Originally when he did this pattern, he didn't do it with the deceiver style tails, and he has since added this, and it just gives a little bit more motion, a little more sexiness to the fly. So I still tie them the original way, but I do like this tail. Just when you see everything put together, it really is a phenomenal fly in the water. It just looks better this way. I think it fishes better, it attracts more fish, but the original's phenomenal as well. I just gravitate to this one recently. But moving on, let me get this to spin right. The back hook on this one, I have a 2461 size 4. When Kelly did this one, and when he still does this one, it's a X452, I believe. I would have to check on the sizes to be certain, but I know he doesn't use the 2461s. He uses a saltwater hook. Either way, it's gonna be pretty close to the ballpark on what he uses. Just kind of preen this all back, make it look pretty. And you can see the tail kind of disappears a little bit with the marabou, but once it gets in the water, the tail really comes to life. And then we're going to take one more stack. So I'm running a size 1 and a size 4. 4 is obviously the back hook, size 1 is going to be the front. And we'll get this in here. It's, like I said, just I gravitate toward this pattern in the springtime, but there's not a bad time of the year to fish it. There really isn't. For some reason in the spring, fish just seem to be drawn to it. And we'll call that good right there. So you have your deceiver tail and 2 stacks of marabou, 2 plumes of marabou wrapped in space style, and that completes your back hook. Wrap that back just a little bit, just to get the fibers. You can see how they're kind of all going backwards, and you don't have a ton of room on the front with this, so give it a quick whip finish, and we'll move on. Set this to the side for a second. And we'll bring our size 1 in. I already have the wire pre-tied in to cut down on the video length just a touch. Not a whole lot, but it saves you from being bored and listening to me for, I don't know, 2 minutes, however long it would take me to tie in this wire. So, as always, I tie it in with the Danville 6/0 or whatever 6/0 you use, whatever nylon thread you decide to use, that's fine. It gives a little more grip on the base, and your wire's not going to want to flail around and move. And then I just go back over top of it with the GSP. We're going to take one red bead, throw this in, and grab our back hook. Run this through. Pinch that off. You can see our distances are, and if you've watched any of my other videos, I've explained the distances that I use on the articulations. I'm not going to revisit those. If you want to, just go back and check those out, but you have the same distance from here to there as you do there to there. The reference points and all that are in the other videos. Yep. Phone's blowing up again. So, just take your little bit of wire and cut this off. Every 4th or 5th wrap on the way back. Really wrench down on this. It just gives the wire a little bit more bite. And we're set. Looks like this is a pretty downward angle on this fly, honestly. It's just how I typically hold things in the vise. But we got the whole fly in here, so the picture's good. What we're going to do next is create a dubbing loop. And let me find my tool here. After we have our dubbing loop, throw a hitch in, throw this in the cradle. Now, hot in the cabin here this week. 100-degree temps in Montana. Not very usual, so the cabin's a little bit warm. What we're going to do is take some ice dub, silver holographic, and silver ice dub right here. We're going to mix these two together, and this is going to be our body for the front portion of the hook. Let me get a little bit of this out. On most of my patterns, most of the patterns that I tie from other tires, I have a skirt in here that covers up the connection. This one's going to be covered not by a material, but by the body. So there's our silver right there on the bench that you can see, and then we're just going to take this holographic and lay it the opposite direction. So the silver is running this way, the holographic is running in that direction. Kind of a critical part to this fly to get it to lay and respond how you want it, to get the body to fill out that way as well. We're going to take this, and this is the trickier part of this fly, is getting all of this material in your dubbing loop. And if I can get my fingers to cooperate, there we go. You can see that big chunk. This is what we're going to use. We have a good taper. Keep your taper not like you would a nymph or even a regular streamer. Keep your taper somewhat even, because you are going to use this stuff to cover up your material. That's going to act as your skirt to cover up your connection point. So just take your dubbing and spin it, and you can see how this stuff, don't spin it really tight. You can see how this stuff right here, I'm going to be able to peel this back and cover up my connection. That's what we're going to use right there. So we're just going to take this and create our body. Now with this, and I'll take a brush and cover this up in a little bit, but you can see how, and I got a little bit too much on there. I'm just going to wind up cutting some of this off. You can see how the taper and everything forms the body, how everything works together to cover up our back connection. And let me grab my junk scissors because this holographic stuff has a little bit of, I don't know, it'll just chew up good scissors, so I always cut it with my junk stuff. Just take an old brush and run this stuff through there. You can see, I mean, it does a pretty good job of covering up our back connection. You can hardly see the bead. Even when this gets wet, I mean, you don't really see much of the bead. Next up, we're going to take, on the top portion and the bottom portion, we're going to have just some bucktail. Take a little chunk of this and measure it out. You want your bucktail, I'll run that through my comb real quick. You want your bucktail to go about to the halfway point on your back hook. If you're going to err on the long side. So here we have this sitting, and what we're going to do is just take this and cut it because it's non-compressible. I talked about this in the Cougar video. Because it's non-compressible, cut it at an angle. This way you know when you make your thread wraps, everything gets the same amount of tension and you're not creating a ton of bulk. So throw this in. And there you have it. That bucktail should be running right down the center of your hook. And you can take this stuff and just trim it up because we're going to finish with the fish skull head eventually. So just trim this up, get it out of your way. I could have backed that off just a touch and it would have been a little bit easier to work with, but for the sake of saving time, we're just going to run with this. Then we're going to take about, I don't know, we'll call it a half dozen strands of clear Flashabou. Cut that in the center. Take this Flashabou, and I'm going to tie this in long because the ends have a tendency to curl. So when I cut the curls off, everything should be decently straight. So there's that. Bring the other half dozen back and you have roughly 12. I didn't count them out, but it's close to 12. Close to a dozen strands. And then measure this out just shy of where your bucktail ends. Release the tension and cut. We're going to flip this over now. After I really wrench down on this. There we go, everything looks pretty good. We're going to flip this over and do the same thing on the top, but before we get to that, we're going to take, I don't know if I can get it out of the package. If I can get it out of the package. One strand of lateral scale. We're going to run this to the midway point of our back hook. And this is just a lateral line. If you watched the Barely video where there were multiple lateral lines, this one just has one material. That's it. But this one material is so shiny and so, for a lack of a better word, obnoxious. You can see it from space, and this one little piece just really brings the fly to life. Great material, by the way. So make sure your lateral lines are obviously run laterally right down the center of your hook shank. And then we're going to grab another piece of bucktail. Run it through the comb, clean it up, get all the junk out of there. Measure this out to your halfway point. There we go. Cut it in an angle. Lay this down. And 1, 2, 3 loose wraps. Then you can start really tightening down. And you can see your bucktail is going straight back over the top of the hook. Now we can just cut all this stuff, clean our eye up slightly. We have no obstructions, nothing in our way. And we have one more material, and then we're going to put our head on. This is Ice Dub Minnowback Shimmer Fringe. This stuff, when the fly is in the water, you can see this for miles. It seems it just stands out so much in the water. It makes a ton of noise. It really does. So hold on one second here. I'm trying to get material and talk at the same time. Like I said, you can see it for a long ways. It is so reflective. It's so easy to track. It's so fun to fish because you can see your eats. You can see fish running it down. You just take this little bit, and you can see this is all the more that I have right here. I mean, it's not a ton. And the same thing, because it's non-compressible, take and cut it at an angle. And throw it right on top of your stack of bucktail. Same thing, first 2 to 3 wraps pretty loose. Then you can really tighten down on it. And there you can see just how reflective, how much motion this thing is going to have. Very, very fun to fish. So, well, never a dull moment here on these tying videos. Anyhow, back to what we were doing. Just throw a quick knot in. You can half edge, you can whip finish, it doesn't matter. We're going to be throwing glue in here. Grab your skull head. This is a medium gray, just the same as the barley. And throw this over top. And you can see we're not going to be blocking our eye. Everything's going to be clean. It's going to be easy to work with. I'm going to readjust this before it springs on me again. Refine my lateral scale before I go gluing anything. There's that side, and this side is also good. Just kind of prepping everything before I put the glue on, because once the glue gets on there, it's pretty well final. You just want to make sure that you have all of your material facing the right direction. So there we go, we're pretty well set. We'll grab our zap, same as the barley, same as the Tenet 2. Just throw a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom. Grab your head and throw this right over top. Just let it sit there for a second. You should feel it, I mean, if you put the right amount of glue on, you should feel the head actually warm up a touch, and that'll let you know that things are just about to kick. Everything's just about to be solid in there. Look at it from this angle, and we'll go ahead and just zoom out just a touch. Flip it upside down in the vise, look at it from this angle, and you can see everything's nice and lined up. You still have a good clean eye to where you're going to be able to get your tippet and your leader through. And then just dab it right on top with some zap. Grab an old hackle stem, marabou stem, whatever it may be. I like to have a little bit of material on here, but we're just going to clean it up. Get any glue out of there. Find your lateral scale, bring it right down the center. Things look good on this side. Flip it back around. Things look good on my side. So this is your finished Kelly Galloup Pearl Necklace. Like I said, it's just a phenomenal, I've got a bunch of materials under me here, phenomenal fly to fish, phenomenal fly to tie. It's just a ton of fun no matter what you do with it, and it just produces. It really does. I mean, it catches fish. Give it a shot. Let me know how things go, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll get with you as quick as possible. But thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next fly.